There's Elio, he's not up yet. Yeah, I've got boxes of stuff, and I just because this thing I've been building this. I'm not finished building it yet. Yeah, so we've not moved in that long ago. So I'm still in the process of. It looks tidy on camera, and it's not too bad, but yeah, it's not where I want it. If that makes sense.
So a Renaissance man, Paul. You got music, drawing, jiu-jitsu, business owner.
Living the dream.
Yeah. Well, it's taken a long while to get there, and a lot of work, and pain and injuries and everything else that you've got. So yeah, it's nothing happens overnight, as they say.
For sure. Well, are we good just to keep rolling? Just go straight into this?
Yeah, let me know when you want to start and stuff, because I'm sure not everyone would want to I'll just place this a little bit better. There you go. I'm not sure everyone would want kind of me zooming that round the room, kind of showing them all my crap, Yeah.
You don't know our members. I think they probably would. I think they'd really like that sort of way.
Maybe we could do that if you wanted to. It's up to you guys. I wouldn't want to kind of do that and you go, oh, what's he doing in pleb? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's just keep it going. We'll have a rolling start somewhere in there.
Okay.
Thanks so much for doing this, Professor.
Thanks for letting me do it. It's always good to kind of talk about, the love of jiu-jitsu and everything about it, and that's why this podcast exists, right?
Exactly, absolutely. You started out in jiu-jitsu really early. We spoke to Mark Walder on the podcast, and you started out with him before he even started jiu-jitsu, right? Yeah.
It's about so long now, getting so old. It was probably about 95, 96. I think we started just VHS tapes in a little square, like in this little front room, stuff like that. Learning off VHS tapes, basically. It's a bit kind of like what people do now with, the internet, where you might learn something, but it was literally, there was nothing available. So, we just started kind of beating each other up, and well, not in a horrible sense, but just kind of getting the chokeholds, getting the positions, learning, the basics from the Gracie Academy. I think Mark sent off and ordered for the videotapes, and I've said in like previous interviews and stuff like that we were training. We come from like a Tang Sudo background, and then we were training and kind of teaching at the same time in a gym where it was like freestyle karate, so we could kind of mix it up. It wasn't so traditional, a bit like what I suppose like a very early version of like MMA, where it wasn't, at that time a lot of karate and some styles started to kind of move away from that more traditional kind of and I suppose what jiu-jitsu is kind of doing, some elements of jiu-jitsu I've been doing over the last few years, of where you got things like 10th Planet and stuff like that, taking the gi off, and they just want to be expressive, doing their own, what they would consider their own style or interpretation of what they want. And that's what happened for us. We were both trained in Tang Sudo. And the guy that owned the gym, he was also, and another two guys, Neville and Jeff, but Jeff owned the gym, and they phoned us. Well, they phoned me up, said, you want to come here and train? It was very much without the restrictions, and it was, a lot more kind of sportive, I suppose, but you could add more elements to it, so it wasn't so restricted, which really appealed to me, really appealed to that kind of creative side of myself. And learning new things, and not feeling like you're so restricted to this is the way, this is the only way. And it was kind of like that. If you've ever done really, really traditional martial arts, it's kind of used to drive me mad, like with a punch. Like you'd do like a punch like this, and you'd be like that, and they go, no, just like that. And it was like almost like a millimetre. No, like that. And you go, really. I'm sure like in a fight, and I'm sure there's reason behind it, but that 1 millimeter did it make that much of a difference? And that they were very, your foot plate, everything had to be like perfect all the time. And there was no means to move outside of that. If I wanted to do it like a different way, which suited my body type or just the way I naturally moved, no, not allowed to do that. So I went there and I started training. Then I said to Mark about we're doing this, and me and Mark were really good friends. And he said, "Oh yeah, I'll come down." And then he jumped on and he joined the team, and we was all doing it together. And we watched the UFC, and the tape went round the gym because obviously everyone wanted to kind of see what was up at the time. And then we all said, "Oh yeah, should we kind of add like the ground game to it a little bit? So we can start like from the stand up, and if someone gets a throw, then we can mess about on the ground for like 20 seconds or a minute, and then stop and start from stand up again." And what me and Mark realized very soon is that when, we're all on a similar level, when no one's really that good, the bigger person just ends up smashing you to bits. So me and Mark, we're not big guys. We're about the same kind of height. I think I'm a little bit heavier nowadays with knockdown weight and all that stuff, of where, trying to get back in shape, as I showed you guys earlier. I've got the gym set up a little bit, so trying to kind of, keep myself in relative shape. Yeah. So we're not big guys. So we kind of chatted and said, like, we really want to learn the stuff that Hoist was doing. So how are we going to learn that? And Mark said, "Oh, I saw like on this advertisement that there's some, videotapes that they're sent. I'm not sure how long they take to get it from America." Anyway, he ordered them, and as soon as he got them, he kind of said to me, "Look, do you want to come round to," because he said, "Look, I want to learn it properly. I want to learn it the way it should be done, not mixing it with this, that, or the other, and just kind of, I just want to learn what these guys are doing, and then we'll learn that and then apply it." So we kind of went round there and just started training together, just learning the basics, like what's a mount, the headlock escape, the triangle choke and stuff like that. So we learned that, and then we just messed about doing that, just basically drilling. We weren't sparring, we were just drilling, trying to kind of absorb the technique done in the right order, like foot goes here, this is a shrimp, this is a bridge, because we didn't even know any of that. What's a bridge? What's a shrimp? It's weird, because back then it wasn't like, you've grown up or you've got it around you, like you can put the internet on, you can watch loads of things. There was nothing. And the UFC, no one knew what it was. No one, even like 5 years ago, you guys have been doing jiu-jitsu a while. It's only, I'd say, past 5 years that you would get like kids coming in that want to actually do jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu. I used to have to sell it so hard, like, what's this? And then they'd see it and they wouldn't understand. I was just like, wrestling, it's like I always say, people joke like it's cuddle club, and with some teenage kids, if they're not, if they haven't watched the UFC and they're not sure about it, they're like, "Oh, that's a little bit, I don't really want this boy like mounted on me. This is a bit embarrassing to be in this position." And then, they kind of see it as being a little bit kind of like, "Well, I'm not that way." And it's like, there's nothing of that towards it. This is a fighting style, but you have to kind of get over them bumps with them and show them basically what it is, not what they think it is. But yeah, so back then there was nothing. So after we trained and just drilling as much as we could on getting burned, carpet burns. I always remember on the carpet, they used to have this Kaylee gas fire. It must have been like kind of like winter time when we were doing it. They put the fire would be on when we'd start. Like one of them old Kaylee gas fires, if you remember back in the day. We'd be like, sweating like that, like trying to, on your t-shirt, and then they'd turn the fire off and we'd carry on and stuff like that. But these are really precious memories to me. It's kind of, and all I've ever done is kind of love doing the martial arts and wanted to be creative and learn, what works without any blinders on, and kind of just be open-minded to everything, and try all styles and respect all styles as well. as we know, no style's absolutely perfect. And there's always room for improvement if people are willing to kind of, stay open-minded to it, I think. So we went back and started training with the guys. Like in the stand-up, we knew that anyway. We did like freestyle karate, stroke kickboxing kind of style. But as soon as it hit the mat, me and Mark were just like lead. Like within, I'm talking like weeks. Within like a week or two, we were like light years ahead just by knowing like a triangle choke or a mount, and then just using your hands properly from the mount to base and understanding not to hold on to someone like you're trying to control them. And that made a massive difference. And obviously, like after that, Mark went to LA, done that for ages. He went to Torrance. Obviously, I moved away at that point. I moved from London to Rye, wanted to get out of London. My family moved down to Rye in East Sussex, where I kind of am now, which I live in Hastings now, which is not too far from Rye. And he was doing that. I kind of lost contact with him a little bit, because back then it was just like basically like on the phone. It wasn't like Facebook now. So it was really easy to lose like that contact that we kind of take for granted now, where just like with you guys, I'm ready whenever you're ready to go. Just text you. You said, yeah, we're up, we're live. So I've jumped on, and it's that instant kind of communication. So we kind of didn't speak for a while. And then I wanted to learn more, and I kind of watched a copy of Choke come out. I think it's about 97, somewhere around now, 96, 97. But I used to watch that thing like it wore out, and I thought, well, even in Hoyce's interviews in the Octagon, he's famously quoted saying that Hickson's like 10 times better than me and stuff like this, and he's like a champion of the family. And if anyone's watched Choke, I mean, who can't be impressed by Hickson? Just his demeanor, he's charismatic, and he was like at the time he was, and I'm sure if he was still in shape and 30 years old now, he'd be kind of taking on Khabib. I'm sure he would be. That'd be his next challenge. But the thing is, so I decided to go to Santa Monica and go and train with Hickson's guys and Hickson and stuff like that. And then afterwards, when I came back, I think Mark had been to the Gracie Academy. I'd seen him in between this when he came back the first time. And then he showed me like some of the stuff that he'd done when I went up to London to kind of visit him. And after he'd been there, I think it was like a month, 8 weeks, 2 months, something like that. It was like, even it was kind of like that jump when we knew a little bit, no one knew nothing. And then I knew some, but then his level had gone like crazy in comparison, because, if you haven't got good training partners or people that really can guide you in any which way, it takes a long time to kind of gain that knowledge. And he was in the hub of it, learning all the time. And I was just so impressed. And then 98 came, and I decided to go to Santa Monica in LA and just train with Hickson and Hickson's guys. Done a lot of training after Marcio Costa, who was running his academy, because they had a Boulevard Academy, which is the one you see him training in Choke. That's why I've done a lot of training with Marcio Costa. Hoxton used to train there quite a bit, done quite a bit of training with Hoxton, his son, who sadly passed. And I had to go to Pico Boulevard, which was a much nicer gym at that time. And that's where, in some footage, you'll see that, where it's a different gym where he trains in the 90s. That was Pacific Palisades was where that gym was. And it was such a really, really nice gym that he used to train in. And he used to go there to train with, obviously, Hickson, Luis Herrera, and people like that who are kind of like legends in the game. So then I came back and just from there took whatever belts I had off and put a white belt on, and in Rye started a jiu-jitsu club in white belt. And I tell people about that now. I was telling someone about that the other day, one of my students who is a white belt now, and he said, "Oh, how long ago? How did you get into it? When did you start teaching?" And I said, "Oh, I started teaching when I was a white belt." And he looked at me like, "What? How can you teach as you're a white belt?" I said, "But you got to understand that there was nothing. The landscape was nothing. Unless I wanted to carry on doing like karate, kickboxing, kung fu, join, especially when I moved down, because I couldn't train with Mark all the time at that time. So I was just surrounded by kung fu and karate clubs. As you remember, back years ago, it was just that they were the main thing, and everyone knew what they was. And I always joked that, you know, I've been doing it so long now, my mum still thinks I do karate. She jokes, she says, "Oh, how's the karate going?" I'm like, you know, sometimes she gets it right, sometimes she calls it jiu-jitsu, but now and again she will say, "Oh, no, I'm in jiu-jitsu." She still has that because I did it for so long. So that happens now and again, but that was the landscape back then. And if I wanted to continue, obviously being to America and being so inspired by them guys, and kind of thinking that this stuff is going to grow, and it's going to grow, and it's going to grow, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. And you know, if anyone feels the same way that I do about it, it can not keep on growing, because as we know, once the intravenous is kind of injected into you, that's it. You need your hit after hit of doing it. And it almost is like a drug in that sense, of where, you know, the more you learn, the more you want to learn, and the more you want to do it. And it's almost like you've got to calm yourself down to go down. You're not trying to train too much and just train enough, you know, to progress, you know, rather than burn yourself out. And because we have it at the gym, even people that have got injuries, they want to come in and they want to train. I'm like, look, stop, take some time off, come in, sit on the side of the mat, watch. You know, you don't have to train, but they just maybe scared that people are going to get ahead of them, or just, you know, they just want to roll so much because it's so much fun. And that was kind of my journey. And then I took it from there. Obviously, went back up to London as much as I could, train with Mark. And like everyone, if you watch that podcast with Mark, I'm sure he'll kind of take you through how it went from there. It was Hoist, and then we went to Baja with Mauricio, because Mauricio was more available. But for me, it's been an absolute, you know, privilege to know any of these guys, you know, from Mark to Mauricio to Hoist to Hickson to Hodger to, you know, the names go on and on and on. I just feel blessed, you know, to have trained with so many legendary people inside of jiu-jitsu, because when I was coming up, they were just the guys that for me, they were the guys that you would go to. And now people look back and they go, wow, you know, it's kind of must have been crazy training with these guys. And it was when they were in their prime as well. That was the crazy thing. Like Hoist was in his prime. He was fighting in Pride, and Hickson was fighting in Pride in the Coliseum and stuff like that. I mean, when I went to train with him, he was still in his fighting prime. And it was like, yeah, I don't know anyone that would kind of come close to him at that point in time at all, you know.
Did you get a role with him, Paul?
Sorry?
Did you get a role with him?
Hickson?
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I can remember of it, it was just a bit like a blur. You know, when you roll with like some magical figure that you're kind of like, I'm actually going to roll with this guy now who's kind of like, and you've seen him. And like I said, he's got such an interesting energy about him. Do you know what I mean? But but to couple that, it's annoying. You know, he's a really good looking guy, really charismatic, could probably kill most men alive, and take your girlfriend off you at the same time. And he's kind of such a nice guy. It's annoying. I mean, at least if he could be a little bit more like Conor McGregor, and just kind of, you know, where people could easily say, yeah, but he's a bit like this, he's a bit like that. Every time I met him, he's so nice, so humble. And yeah, for me to roll with him, it's kind of a bit of a blur. It's kind of, I couldn't do anything. And he's just playing. You know, he's just playing. And he's barely doing anything. It's a bit like the same as, I don't know if you've ever rolled with Hodger. Hodger's a bit like that. He's kind of like, yeah, I've got him out. I can escape this. And he's just like, no. And, you know, it's a bit demoralizing. You feel like you're an absolute white belt. You know, even at a black belt level with some of them guys where there's levels, you feel like, man, it's kind of like, I know a lot, but there is a level that just keeps on jumping. And yeah, but for me, I've always liked, in the first, whenever I started learning it, I was always forced into, not forced, I suppose that's the wrong word. It's always been the role for me that has been teaching, like, because I've had to teach it from day one. So like people ask me, like Dan Strauss asked me on his podcast, like, what do you consider yourself more as, a fighter or an instructor or coach or whichever? And I said, well, I'm an instructor. I've put it out there, you know, I've made it very clear. I'm, you know, a bit crazy in that sense that even though I coach, I'll fight anyone, like at any time. I have a match up against anyone, and I've tried to do that along the way. Just, you know, it's just to kind of show, you know, the people that train with me that, yes, I'm willing to not just say this, but I'm willing to step out onto the mats and kind of, you know, try and perform the best I can, which obviously when I first started, it was MMA. And when I did MMA, it was like, you know, the really old days to prove jiu-jitsu, because everyone we went against, everyone Mark went against, everyone I went against, and Dave Speedy Elliott is another great black belt. We were all kind of, you know, doing MMA at similar times. It was to prove that, you know, because you had a lot of people like really strong kickboxers and Thai boxers that were like, yeah, whatever. And they just wanted to prove that, yeah, you know, I've got X amount of fights in the ring. No way you're going to, you know, get through my knees and punches and take me down to the ground and all that stuff. I'll keep it standing. And our thing was not to prove that we're tough guys, but just to, you know, build a situation where we kind of prove that the style works under the most intense situations. So people will then say, okay, well, you know, I want to learn that stuff. So for us, it was that, because no one knew what it was. So you have to kind of prove it, which is what the Gracies did. It was that sense of, well, how do you get? Because when you look at it, no one, if you didn't know anything and you showed someone jiu-jitsu, then showed someone Thai boxing and said, which one is the better fighting art? Which one is, you know, more real? And, you know, and Thai boxing is very real and very, you know, I've done my spat of Thai boxing and it's hard. You know, I wouldn't do that now. I'm getting too old for that. It's kind of, it's very much the young man's game when you take impact like that over and over and over again. But I don't think there's anyone on the planet who didn't know the difference would pick jiu-jitsu. They'd go, yeah, that's not going to work. You know, that's not really what you need. So it was trying to prove that to people that as a self-defense system, as a system of combat, you need this as much as you need anything else. Because if you get into a grappling situation, especially on the ground, against someone a lot bigger, a lot stronger, maybe really aggressive, this is going to be invaluable to you to know these skills, even if it's just to be able to go home to your family, so you don't end up where the guy's just punching on you or gets up and stamps on you and stuff like that. Just as a survival skill, that alone is worth its weight in gold and diamonds, you know.
Professor, take you a little bit back there, but kind of on the same subject. When you and Professor Mark had that like little jump because you'd seen the tapes, the Gracie tapes and stuff, and you were training at the striking academy, but you would do the ground game stuff as well. What were the people you were training with? What was their kind of reaction to your leaping abilities? Did they take it well, as in they kind of was like, oh, teach me the ground stuff too? Or did they end up just being like, oh, just kind of, I don't like that kind of stuff? Or what was it like?
No, I mean, the main guys we were training with, they were the same with us, because they come from that point of view of being very open-minded. I mean, the first reaction is always a very common reaction that you will go, both you will find on the mats all the time. If you take someone, especially if they think they're, you know, quite a tough guy, or they, you know, they're quite physical and stuff like that, as soon as you do it, they think, okay, well, next time I'll go harder, I'll go stronger, I'll use more aggression, I'll use more muscle. And thinking that it's not the technique that caught them, it's them being a little bit too light on you, or them not bringing a fight enough to you. So that's generally the reaction that we found, was like, yeah, they didn't like it because they're like, wait a minute. And that was their knee-jerk reaction, is like, well, if I go, you know, obviously it was my fault. It wasn't that you called because you didn't catch me like that last week. So it's me. I'm obviously off my game a little bit today. So then they go harder and harder and harder. And then it's kind of like, and then we'd say to them, because we're all in the game together, we'd say, oh yeah, like this is like that. And some people would kind of, like you're saying, I suppose, is some people want to learn it, and other people would be like, yeah, and kind of thinking that, yeah, I would, but, we're just going to carry on doing what we're doing and all that stuff. But I mean, the gym that we were in, everyone was kind of really open-minded. The only downside that me and Mark found was we wanted to do more jiu-jitsu. The more we did it, the more we fell in love with it. So then we said to them, look, we want to start doing like just jiu-jitsu classes, their self. Not say it's like Gracie jiu-jitsu or anything like that, just jiu-jitsu, because neither of us at that point were accredited or held any kind of rank. But because we had black belts in freestyle, we was like, well, we want to teach it as jiu-jitsu, but like a freestyle kind of jiu-jitsu, which is what I did when I moved down to Ryan, started teaching. That's how I branded it, was freestyle jiu-jitsu. So, because I didn't want to kind of say, yeah, I'm teaching this, when I'm actually, I'm not accredited to do that or ranked to do that. So I thought, well, if I teach, because what I did was teach a stand-up, and that's what we did when we first taught. Because some of the guys that were training at that gym wanted to come and do more of that kind of style jiu-jitsu. But we did teach like a lot of the stand-up stuff, but slowly but surely the groundwork and that Gracie style and influence took over, of where we started just implementing more and more and more of that, and then more time on the floor than standing up, kicking and punching, because, as we know how enjoyable it is to roll. We just kind of wanted, and from our own, our own selfish means, we wanted to get better doing that, because we kind of already knew the stand-up. We've been doing that for years and years. So it was kind of like, well, we want to get better. It's like sometimes when you see certain instructors and they always want to teach the same thing, which is a bit selfish, because why they want to teach that. It's because that's their favorite move. So they want everyone to practice it so they can practice it, and then they want to roll. And it's kind of like what we did in the beginning, because you only have X amount of hours on the mat. So we were like, yeah, let's teach some more jiu-jitsu, just so we could get the practice in. And, it worked. And, and all these years later, here we are, like talking on podcasts, and there's massive organizations around the world. And, I'm just really proud to kind of be any small part of, the history in this country, which is, is so funny. I mean, last time I was with Mauricio, I was chatting with him, and it kind of didn't even, because you just go through your day-to-day life, it doesn't really even dawn on you. All I do is get up and, teach classes, work. It's like today I've been like kind of stuck in the bathroom, like fixing stuff in the bathroom. I've got to put some shelves up after this, and I've done some tiling yesterday, and the life's normal. So you just do that. And he came down to do like a seminar at our place just for COVID hit. And he said, he's very gracious, saying, yeah, Paul, you're like one of the pioneers of UK Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which I was like, it doesn't really dawn on you, because time just passes. And like I always say, where you look down at your belt and there's your stripe, then you'll get another stripe, then another stripe, and stuff like that. And all that says to me is, man, I'm getting old. That's all it means to me, is I'm getting older and older and older, because that's 3 years, that's 6, that's 5, and whatever it is. But yeah, the time just passes. And for me, it's just nice to feel that, after all these years, that it's kind of worthwhile doing it. And that's what I would just say to anyone, is time will pass anyway. So just keep on, keep little by little, keep on, whatever it is. Well, it doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu. It can be anything, like doing art, playing the guitar, playing the guitar, listen, see. Whatever it is your passion is, just, time will pass. So you might as well be spending the time doing something you love and something you're passionate about, and really, don't make any excuses for it. It's like I always said to my wife, for me to get to the point of where, any type of point I've got to is because I'm not outright selfish, but I am a selfish person in the sense that I will do what I want to do, not to put anyone out, not to harm anyone, not to upset anyone. But there are certain things that I'm like, right, I want to do this, and I've got the drive to kind of go off and do it. It's like every time I've competed, my wife hates when I've competed in whatever it is, in straight points, jiu-jitsu, MMA, submission only, whatever it's been. She absolutely hates it, and we usually fall out a little bit like the week coming up to it, because I think I'm being super nice, and she claims that I'm being like a nightmare to live with. And I'm, because you cut weight and stuff like that. And I consciously try to be like, no, I'm not. I'm really trying hard to be like the best person I can be to live with. But I obviously am a bit off and stuff like that because of the tension of the upcoming event and stuff like that. But it's something that she would say, well, you always do what you want to do if you really want to do it. And it's like, well, yeah, I will. But the thing is, sometimes you've got to stick to your guns, because you will have that with anything, like, especially when you're learning jiu-jitsu. Like you may see it with kids where they want to do it, but they'll be influenced by their friends, or their friends say, oh, what are you going to do that for? And it's having that strong sense of mind and like almost being selfish in that sense, that I want to do this because this is going to, not necessarily get you here or there, but it's a passion. And, and if someone can go and do what they want to do, it's like if you go on holiday or whichever, and a lot of people do, and they go, oh yeah, this is this academy that I want to train at. And, you ask this, yeah, but we're on holiday. You know what I mean? You can't go and spend like the morning doing jiu-jitsu. You've got to spend it on holiday. You do jiu-jitsu all the time when you're at home. But the thing is, for me, it's kind of like, yeah, but you want to go out shopping for 3 hours and you want to, have a massage. Should I say, no, you can't do them things because that's an hour away from me? No, it's kind of, there is that give and take, which we do very well, because obviously me and my wife, we run the gym together. She's a black belt as well. So, which does make life a little bit easier, because she understands obviously where I'm coming from, because my passion is the same passion that she's got for teaching and learning and doing jiu-jitsu and being on the mat. So I'm, again, blessed in that point of view. I think it'd be a lot harder if, I had kind of some type of, wife that was just, oh, what I want to do is go shopping and do this and do that. It would be a lot harder to kind of convince her maybe that what I'm doing is a positive thing, maybe.
I've got a question, Paul. So, you definitely are, without question, one of the pioneers of BJJ. And you want to realise that at the time, like you said, but looking back, it's pretty special, and you should be proud of it, I think. I didn't discover jiu-jitsu until the early 2000s, so sometime after you, but still quite a long, 20 years ago. And I don't think any of us would disagree that, jiu-jitsu's come a long way, and that's a good thing in general. But looking back, is there anything that you think jiu-jitsu's lost? Now it's become more popularized. Now there's so many different avenues for people to learn. Is there something that kind of like the pureness of it, has anything kind of like lost, or are you kind of overwhelmingly happy with where it's got to?
Well, like any art form, it's like I was like saying earlier, because of that creative kind of instinct in jiu-jitsu being a creative art, people want to kind of take it, mold it, and turn it into what they want to, and you end up with different interpretations of it and stuff like that. But yeah, the main thing is like what I think everyone says, especially from the previous generations that learned it the way I learned it, which is like the self-defense kind of part. And I know some clubs touch on it and stuff like that. But yeah, obviously we can all see, it's very obvious the way that jiu-jitsu is going. It's, there's more focus on, the sports side of it and the champions and stuff like that. And everyone wants to follow what they're doing because they're generally the most promoted out of, if you're the champion, like a Gordon Ryan or Craig Jones, there's a lot of buzz around them and there's a lot of eyes and cameras on them. And whenever you see any posts or, anything on Flow Grappling or whatever it is, there's a lot of focus on them guys. So people see that and they want to kind of emulate it and do that. But them guys, they're 100% doing it for the sport, 100% doing it for the competition and to try to win competitions. And that's fine, because you have to do that. If you want to win anything, you've got to put as much effort into not just the art that you're doing and the style, but the conditions of combat as well. So if there's no striking in it, why would you ever need to learn it? If there was no, you've got to defend strikes from the guard, or you've got to defend to get out of this position, or what about if someone grabs you from behind or goes to kick you, and, or someone comes up to you and wants to hit you with a bottle or try to, pull a knife out on you. That's not part of the game. So and I understand, because if you split everything up into its individual parts, you're only given a small portion to the competitive side, and then you've got to do everything else. But for me, that's the main thing that I always teach, and as long as I'm on the mats, I'll keep alive myself. Is a very strong in all our fundamental classes. As you know, we have obviously the self-defense element to it, and obviously I do that, and then I might elaborate a little bit more here, a little bit more there, and stuff like that. But yeah, that would be the only thing other than that, the sports side is grown and grown and grown. You can't really say anything negative about it, because it's on a completely different level to what it was before. Then you can see that the way certain aspects have grown, and it's almost, as an instructor, you'll probably find this, it almost gets to the point sometimes it's hard to keep up with all the new innovations. And not that you should, because there's only so much as one person that you can master anyway. I think as long as we've got a good working understanding of everything, from like a lot of the new things that people, or not so new, but the more modern things that people want to kind of involve themselves with, like the leg locks, and you've got wrist locks and stuff like that people are really trying to kind of work in, because they want the edge. They want the edge on what's going on, what's going to work against strong competition. Which is very positive, and the sport has kind of elevated the level of jiu-jitsu. There's no two ways about it. People are a lot better equipped now, just because, and it's nothing to do with, there's a new generation, they're great because they're just great. It's all the people like myself, yourself, and everyone else, and back to people like Elio and Holes and Hickson and Hoyce and Hodger and everyone that kind of goes down the line. It's like the saying goes, the new people stand on the shoulders of giants. And the reason why they're so good is because all the work that all the coaches and all the academy owners have put, all the years and years of working to set up academies, that then people can now come in, and they're already coming in. I'm sure when you first started, it was kind of, blue belts and purple belts were like unicorns. It's kind of like, my God. But now you walk into academy, you expect to see a brown belt. You'd probably, be shocked if there wasn't a black belt at the head of the gym. But that wasn't the way. So now when people come in, they're already on this sharp learning curve, because they're surrounded by everyone. Every role they have is going to be at a certain level, and everyone can help them as well. So if there's anything wrong with their game, they go, oh yeah, do this and do that. Whereas years ago, it's kind of like, let me research that, I'll come back to you, or let me go and ask like Mauricio, or or I know I've got a guy might know that answer, or come training with me and we'll learn some more stuff, or whichever it is. So now the level just is what it is, because of all the work of everyone that came before, and they've set it up to a level now that anyone coming in will be able to get really good relatively fast. Plus the add-on to the side of that, the amount of people that are training. When you take a really deep pool of people, you're always going to have one or two that are outliers in that game where they just get it. You'll show them something. You'll see that with some people that come in. Some people, that they're going to be like a hobbyist, for instance. They're going to do it for fun. They're going to do it for health. They're going to do it for self-defense reasons. But you would never turn around to them and go, we've got a competition next month. Do you want to jump into it? Because you'll be worried that they might get hurt because you know that's not what they're doing it for. And they haven't got that will to do that. But other people, within the first month, you'll go, my God, tell you what, if he went in at white belt, all the other white belts are going to be in trouble. And you can just see it. They just pick it up. And it's almost sickening in the sense of, especially if you train really hard to get to 11, you see other people just picking it up really easily like that. But that's the thing. When you have a massive pool, you're going to be able to, there's going to be a hell of a lot more people that are going to be able to get better and better and better. Because, you go to a competition, it comes down to, it's great to win a competition, but it's jiu-jitsu against jiu-jitsu. You're fighting other people from the same art. So it's not even about, it's the art anymore. It's more about, the individual athlete, like it is, like they said, like it is in things like the UFC, where, you have certain athletes that would just rise above other ones. So that isn't a perfect indicator of whether you have really good jiu-jitsu for you. It's more of an indicator of, it's set up for, really good athletes, compete against really good athletes that are all good at a certain style of fighting. So yeah, but for me to answer, I know I do ramble on a lot. The self-defense, I would say, is that's the thing that I think if we're not careful, we'll be lost. I've always said that within a generation, it'll be lost. And then 100 years from now, 8 years from now, it will be rediscovered. It's kind of be like, do you remember that? And people will start putting it back together again. But yeah, which I'm happy that there are, a lot of clubs that kind of keep that element still into the jiu-jitsu, because when people first walk through the doors, most of them, the tiniest percentage might be, I'd like to maybe compete in this. Most of them come in to learn something that they can use as, a self-defense tool, to defend themselves if anything happens. They don't come in thinking, I want to berimbola that guy across from me. No one comes in thinking that they want to learn how to duck a punch, how to defend against a tackle, all them kind of things. Or someone grabs you from behind when you're walking along. How do I get out of that, that really dangerous, nerve-wracking situation, and get home safe to my family? And that's, it's a shame, because for me, that's one of the best things in jiu-jitsu is the self-defense syllabus. And it would be a shame to see. I mean, for me, it won't disappear. And I know a lot of other people, it won't disappear. But you can see the landscape, and it can easily disappear because, like I said, a lot of the focus now is on the sports side of it. But I think I learned that all. And I think any instructor out there that knows, because a lot of people from learned it at a similar time that I learned it would have learned that with it. If they don't teach it, you're shortchanging your students, I think, personally. Because if I know how to teach someone how to get out of a really dangerous situation that could be life-threatening, and I don't share that with them, I am literally shortchanging them. And I want to be able to teach everything. So teaching everything would be obviously the self-defense, the gi, the no gi, and everything jiu-jitsu has to offer.
I totally agree. And I don't want to misquote him, but we had Rob Drysdale on the podcast, and he said the same thing. Like, he was concerned around the submission grappling taking all the limelight, and the art itself, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, the self-defense that you talk about, like being lost over time. I think that's just a responsibility, like you say, for us as instructors, to kind of be honest. Particularly Gracie Barra, I think we do that really well. I've got a question about that, and I may as well ask you now. So why Gracie Barra then? You've been around for a long time. If you're under any affiliation, doing your own thing, why Gracie Barra?
Well, the honest thing is, when I first did it, we used to train with Mark under Hoist, and it was Mark initially, because he went and trained with Mauricio quite a few times, and then he had a conversation with Hoist and said, look, I need a little bit more regular. And Hoist can only come over like once a year or whatever it was. And he spoke to Hoist about it, and Hoist was cool and said, yeah, Mauricio's Mauricio's a great guy. And he said, look, I'm thinking of kind of doing more training with him, and that will become part of the association and stuff like that. Because when Mauricio started, it was Gracie Barra UK, and Mauricio was the head of it. I've still got somewhere over there my certificates from the original Gracie Barra UK for like Gracie Barra Hastings and the instructor's certificate and all that, which is really weird because now we've got the ICP, right? And it's kind of like that was the original UK certificates, which I didn't realise I had till we moved, and I sorted everything out, and I was like, oh man, I've still got these, which is all them years later is really cool to see. So he turned around to me and Dave Elliott, because Dave was he was doing similar to me but up north, and obviously I'm down south and Mark was in London, and we were both going up and down and training and stuff like that. And he said to us guys, look, I've spoken to Hoist, I'm thinking of going like with Gracie Barra, because he's part of Gracie Barra, not part of like the Hoist Gracie network, and said, I'm thinking of going over there. And I said, look, you know, we'll train together, whatever you're going to do, I'll jump in. And because I'd never met Mauricio at that point, but I trust Mark, I trusted his opinion, and it was a really good one. And yeah, and that's when I first became I forget when that was, 2000, just after the 2000s, 2000, 2002, something like that, I can't remember. It was early 2000s, and we went over and just started training with Mauricio, and then I'd go to Mark, and then obviously Mauricio used to rent a place in the middle of London. It was like in the top of this gym, really small. He used to get the mats out, and they used to always come apart and stuff like that. And he used to go up there and train with Mauricio and train with Mark and try and get as much training as possible. So that started obviously the Gracie Barra vibe. And then I kind of went down there, kept on training with Mauricio. But back then with Gracie Barra, the organisation wasn't like the organisation of the organisation, and what people were doing and everything else was a bit disjointed. And then they wanted to start bringing in fees, and I thought, and it was quite expensive. I mean, a lot more expensive than it is now. It's you know, it's a really good deal now. What you get for your buck now is, you know, it's as good as anything else out there could ever offer. And I was just like, oh, I don't know. And I kind of lost, because you start kind of doing your own thing, like I said, being creative. And I was like, well, you know, if I'm going to do something, for me, I was like, well, I was a black belt at this point. I'd got my black belt from Mark and Mauricio. And I thought, well, if I'm going to start paying this, and Mark was starting to do his own thing. And I thought, and it's, you know, it comes a little bit disjointed. And I thought, well, rather than pay that monthly fee that I couldn't, because at the time I wasn't earning a lot of money either, and the fee was a lot of money every month for me at that point, because I really didn't have any money at all. And I was like, well, I can't really justify that payment because I need that money, so I'll just start doing my own thing, which I started with Dark Style Jiu-Jitsu. That I started my own kind of little club or whatever, and just branded it as that. Never lost contact with the guys from Baja, with, you know, Victor and Braulio and stuff like that. And we, you know, as it is, you know, there was no, you know, Mark and everyone else, there was no bad terms. It was just, I'm just deciding to do this with my club. And you know how cool them guys are. And they were just like, yeah, we're always here if you want to come back. And, you know, we're always open, and they're great. They're great in that sense. Yeah, and then years and years and years passed. And then my brother-in-law, is Ali's brother, is in Chicago training with Carlos Lemos Jr. And we went over there, and I started talking to Carlos Lemos, and he come over. He did it because, like, then when he come over to the UK, I made sure I put on a seminar for him, because obviously made good friends with him, and he's obviously my brother-in-law's instructor. And he said, you know, and it was kind of like out of the blue, because I wanted to do a seminar with him, and then he said, "Oh, there's no time," because Mike, my brother-in-law, phoned me up and said he's in the country if you wanted to do it. And I tried to get it organised, and he said, "Oh, my dates are taken up, but maybe next time I come over, we'll do a seminar." So, "Oh, whatever, that's fine, no big deal." But then his plane got delayed by a day, and he said, "Look, if you want a seminar, I'm free for one more day. I could fit you in." So really short notice, I said, yeah, come and do a seminar. And then we got chatting. I was so, you know, just so impressed by what he was, you know, what they're doing, what Baja were doing now, their vision of, how they see jiu-jitsu and the growth of jiu-jitsu and what the standards of jiu-jitsu should be. And then obviously got talking to Victor. Victor came down, did a seminar, got chatting to him more about it, and he kind of, showed me more about, these are the plans, this is what we're doing. And it wasn't like there was no sales pitch. They were like, I'll come down and do a seminar if you need me to do a seminar. That's cool. But I spoke to my wife, and we said, you know what, the thing is, it was, and the choice to kind of stop doing my own kind of brand of stuff and, jump back in with Baja was the idea of, I always took it from the point of, it's not about me, it's about my students. So the decision has to be, I have to take myself out of the equation. And if I took myself out of the equation and said, look, it's not about me, it's about what's best for the club, it's about what's best for all the students. And I was thinking, well, I could be like, one club with inside of all these things, but the problem is it's that's not really beneficial for my students. What's more beneficial is that they can go anywhere around the world or go to all different counties and, cities in the UK and phone up and go, I train at Gracie Bar Hastings, if they're in Leeds, say to you guys, and you'll go, oh, yeah, come train with us. And I know, hand on my heart, that they're going to go there and it's not going to be like, oh, what club are you from? Okay. And they're looking to their mate over there kind of going, and then every tough guy in that room is going to bounce through them before they even show them any type of respect, just to test them. And it's going to be like that. But if you go to, the same club as yourself, whether that be Gracie Bar or it could be like a checkmat to checkmat, all them guys are going to be like, you're part of the same team. And that's what's drilled into the middle of Gracie Baja is it's one family, one team, and we're all trying to grow, as positively and as as much as we can in the right direction all together, and that was my kind of thing. Was it's not about me, what's best for my students, and what's best for all the students of our club is that they have this network that they could go anywhere around the world and train and feel like they step on their mats in Tokyo or Australia and feel like there's a welcome there, that they're at home and they can go and train there as happily as they can at our club. And we know, like we've had people lately that have come from other clubs in the UK, from Fulham and stuff like that, have come down and trained with us. And we're just like, for me anyway, I'm just like, yeah. And they're like, shall I pay you? I'm like, no. It's kind of, for me anyway, that's part of the deal. Other clubs may have different programs, but for me, it's like, man, if you come to, Baja and Hastings, it's like, and you train anywhere, Baja around the world, you come train for free. Unless you're moving into the area and you want to train for like 5 years, then we have to talk about some membership. But other than that, it's kind of like, no, come train for a week. I don't care. Just happy to have you on the mats. And that's the feeling that, I've always wanted. And that's something so great that, all the Gracie Baja network have is pushing that kind of, energy and positive kind of energy out there for everyone to kind of jump into and, and kind of enjoy it really, and doing it the right way, not trying to be like some big tough, because it's not about that. It's about being technical, taking care of each other and, doing what's best for not just your students, but for the club and the growth of everything. So yeah, I was just so impressed by it. The growth from the few years that I'd been away, the growth that, Baja had made in the organisation was like night and day. And I was just like, yeah, like kind of, let's do it. And ever since then, so, I mean, if you track me right back, I mean, I've been Gracie Baja with that little hiatus for, I don't even know, it's been so long now, for so many years. Since Mauricio first come to the country, pretty much I've been Gracie Baja. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we echo the same kind of sentiments about Gracie Baja, really.
It's been fun.
As you've mentioned some such great instructor names over the course of the podcast. Has anyone ever given you like a piece of advice in jiu-jitsu that's really stuck with you for a long time?
Oh God, I don't know. That's really difficult. Too many. I don't know. Probably a lot of ones I always refer back to from people like Hoist. Like when I first started learning, he gave me the advice that I always give to kind of white belts, which is slow down. You know what I mean? Slow down. You're going too fast, and you want to be smooth. Is I used to say, smooth is fast. Don't rush it. Learn it right. Take your time. And just breathe. And that's the thing. And I always kind of refer that back to the students. So off the top, I mean, there's so much. There's so many different, and there's things that Marisa have said at Hoja, like there's so many different people that have given me great advice. But that's the one I probably give to, like, if there's any like white belts, like, or people new to this, maybe, clicking on and watching anything like that, my advice would be slow down. Do you know what I mean? Just take it slow, and be smooth. Don't use muscle. And for me, it's like the advice I always give is, trust the process. Basically, that would be my advice to people: is trust the process. Just take your time and trust the process, and trust the technique as well. If you learn it in the right way, take the muscle off and put it on the shelf. That's what I always say to people. If you've got the muscle, put it on the shelf and just try and use the technique. And the problem is with that, when people learn it for the first time, the easy, especially if you're quite physical, the easy answer is, well, I'm just getting beaten up. But I know if I use like some strength, I can negate what they're doing at least. So I'll hold them down, or I can, smash past that guard. But the reference I always use is that, and always to keep in your mind, if you're trying to learn jiu-jitsu in the right way, which I would consider the right way, which is like to be really skillful and technical, not just using speed and strength. Because I always say to people, man, I'm preparing for when I want to be on the mats for life. So my jiu-jitsu, I've always kind of in the back of my mind been preparing for when I'm 50, 60, 70, 80. So I can be on the mats in some capacity 8 years old and still be able to do it. But for that, I need a style of jiu-jitsu that is going to allow that. And it's not one that you see 22-year-old competitors doing, because you can't keep that up for that long, having that style of game. So I'm always kind of preparing myself for that. And to do that, I've kind of got to learn it in the right way and the right order. And I can't just kind of be muscling stuff. So what I would say to people is like that, just, put the muscle on the shelf and just learn it in the right way,
Yeah, my students will have heard that many times. Slow down, relax, move as fast as all.
Yeah.
We were taught, right, but it's so true.
And that's the hardest thing to do, is relax, right? It's so difficult when you've got someone trying to smash on you and you've got your instructor going, relax, and you're like, relax. He's kind of like he's like strangling me from behind. What do you mean relax? But it is the right thing. But the thing is, you have to go through all them battles, and you have to go through all of that to kind of get that as well. It's not something you get in the first 5 minutes. You kind of have to go through this whole process and just keep on learning and relearning and then relearning, and almost like a cycle. I don't know if you guys find that yourself. You go through cycles of jiu-jitsu where you'll learn and you'll go, and you'll go, you start with basic stuff, and then you'll start going around the circle and you're going, yeah, what I really need to beat this guy is more complicated stuff. And then you go, yeah, but that new move that I see someone do, that's going to be my answer to jiu-jitsu. And then you go back and you go, oh, no, it's not. It's the simple stuff I learned before. And then you go back through and you keep on going back and realizing it's actually like the fundamentals are the bedrock of pretty much everything. It's like if you even track Gordon Ryan's game, it started off being big leg lock guy. Now everyone's learned really how to defend the leg locks, to really negate people leg locking them and the escapes. Everyone's ready for this. Everyone's ready for the attacks. Everyone's ready for the defense. So it's really hard to catch people like good guys that are competitive and they work leg locks a lot. It's really hard to catch them. But if you watch his game, he's gone like very complicated leg locks, this, that, and the other. And he's gone back to what? Mount, back mount, a very basic game. He's gone to a very almost like Hickson, Hodger Gracie style, where if you watch Hickson, you watch Hodger, what do? They take the mount or maybe take the back. And they take their time as well. They're relaxing now, very slowly catch the monkey. It's kind of like that. That's what they do. And you watch his game now, that's what he does. He's like, everything leads to the back or leads to the mount. He doesn't touch the legs too much unless the guy is giving him issues in other areas. Then he's got that as the backup, which he will do. But yeah, it's hard to catch because everyone's on that game now. So what was their initial like secret card up the sleeve with the leg locks, because people didn't really understand them, a little bit like jiu-jitsu when it first came on the scene, it was pretty easy to clean up. If you were a blue belt inside a class of brand new white belts, you were like, man, this guy's like king of the mat. But the thing is, once they start learning, we know it's hard, and then it comes back to like that circle. It just comes back to, okay, let's, and then makes you realise, man, I've got to get really good at the basics, because this is true, tried and tested over so many years, that these are the ones that, like triangle chokes and bow and arrow chokes, these are the techniques that you will rely on again and again and again. So for someone like myself, I say, look, man, just worry about the basics, get good at that. And if you want to kind of pepper in and sprinkle on top of that some weird moves that you found, that's a crazy little move on YouTube, or that your favorite competitor you see do on flow grappling, that's cool. But you do need them solid fundamentals underneath your feet. Otherwise, you're going to find it hard to kind of go against all the different body types and people you've got out there. You'll find that you'll do well against a certain type, and the other ones you won't have what you need to kind of defend yourself, or your positional control, whichever, to kind of do well against everyone. Because I think the basics, the way they are, if you get very good at them, no matter the person, what style they've got, it's very evenly distributed to be able to deal with pretty much every type of person there is out there, what they throw at you. And like coming back to what I said originally, as long as you're open-minded and you kind of have a good or broad awareness of everything there is, because that's what I always say to people learning, is kind of, there's no way you're going to get great at everything. But what you do need is like two things. You need depth of knowledge in what you're good at. So you need to know what you're good at very deep. So if your game is getting the back, learn it inside out, learn all the different transitions, submissions, control aspects of it, and keep on learning that. And you will obviously branch out from that initial, route. You will kind of, and trunk, you will branch out from it naturally anyway. But beside that, that's your game. As far as everyone else is concerned, you need a broad aspect of everything. So it's not like you need to understand. It's like even a leg lock game. You don't necessarily need to understand every leg lock entry and every attack, but you do need to be aware of it. Just so if someone's doing it, you can recognize that, and then not even have to know like the counter or the escape. You just need to be able to block their steps. So they're coming here, just block the foot. I know if you can't put your foot there, you're not getting to where you need to be. And then that's all I need. So you need to understand broadly everything as much as you can, but you don't need to be able to perform it at a really high level. You just need to be able to be aware of it and be able to defend against it, or stop it in its tracks by putting roadblocks up as they're attempting to kind of attack you. Sometimes, and we know rolling, sometimes that's all it is. Man, I'll just hold your hand, because I know if you put your hand there, I'm getting turned over. But if I hold your hand, you can't grab that base point and you can't push me over. And sometimes that's enough. I don't need to know everything about it. I just need to know your intentions, and then kind of stop them in its tracks.
And Professor, we're running kind of low on time, but I had loads more to ask you actually, but I've got two questions if that's cool to finish things up. Mm-hmm. First one is, for you doing martial arts for so long, all of your life, it sounds, what does it mean to be a martial artist? What is that?
Well, for me personally, it's just, it sounds kind of like corny, but it is that thing of just trying to find, you know, the balance between everything and doing that's what martial arts kind of does for me. And being a martial artist is, like they say, all knowledge comes back to self-knowledge. And that's what it does. It kind of strips back, especially jiu-jitsu, man. You can't hide in jiu-jitsu. It's very evident who you are with inside of jiu-jitsu. You'll see it when people roll. Some people, you know, they'll be very aggressive nature. Some people will be relaxed in nature. But especially if you get tapped out or, you know, and it strips back everything, and you have to, you know, reevaluate over and over and over again yourself, like, you know, your ego. Are you pissed off? Self-control. So it's, for me, it's a very good tool for knowing yourself and being in control of yourself as well, being in control of your mind, especially when you're on the mat and you're in all these tricky situations. You have to, you know, be calm and work out very quickly how to break down what you need to be able to do to get from A to B in a very strategic fashion, but be in control, not just intellectually of what you need to do, but emotionally at the same time as well. So that's what I'm saying. It comes back to balance. And that's what I've learned from it. I mean, for me, my advice is, I said this to someone the other day, the way I roll now, it's because it does change over the years. The older you get, you do start developing different mindsets towards the game. And what I always say to people is, man, don't take it so seriously. It's a game. Just everyone takes it so seriously. It's fun. It's supposed to be fun. If it wasn't fun, I wouldn't be doing it. Seriously, I wouldn't. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't be doing it. So for us, in Gracie Barha Hastings, we tried to create that environment between me and my wife of where it's a very, like, you know, calm, fun, happy environment that's open to everyone. The reason, I'm not interested in, you know, I don't refer to people as fighters. I always refer to them as athletes because I think the mindset's different. So I say, yeah, our athletes, not our fighters, because it's kind of different. And just little things like that, like wordplay, sometimes just them little things can make a big difference. And for me, it's the sense of, I want to build, like, you know, in every, you know, microcosm that you have, you want to build your own little world. I can't control anything from me outside of anyone. You know, if someone wants to do something, I can't control what anyone does. And I've learned that a lot from jiu-jitsu as well. Man, you give people sometimes everything, and they go off and leave to go to another gym or do this or do that. And that's fine. I used to take it really personally. Oh man, must be me. And I'm like, no, obviously they need something else that maybe I'm not giving them, or that they can't find it. And that's fine. You go there, that's fine. I'm happy with that. So it's made me kind of realize that is all I can do is build, you know, the kind of gym, the kind of world from that I'm going to be happy in. That's why we do our gym, you know, in a certain way. And I'm sure everyone's slightly different to whatever academy you go to. All I can do is build the type of environment that I'm really happy to be in, because I've got to turn up there myself every single day. So it's got to be the environment that I feel I can grow emotionally in, and is very happy and very positive and forward thinking in that sense. So that's what I've kind of learned, you know, a lot from jiu-jitsu is, like I was saying, really do not take it too seriously. And I was speaking to a guy that one of my students the other day, and I said to him a while back, like, for me, man, you know, it's one of them things. When I roll now, it's the thing of, you know, everything matters and nothing matters equally at the same time. I don't care. Like, if I be cross-side, do I want to mount? Yeah, maybe, not really. Do I want the armbar? Yeah, if it's there, I don't really care. I kind of roll from that point of view, not like, oh man, I've got to get you in an armbar, I've got to do this. And I tell you what, having that kind, and it's weird, it's almost, but it's like half and half. And they play, it sounds weird, but they play really well. Like, I care about everything and nothing at all at the same time equally, which is really hard for, I think, some people to get their head around. But what I found is it's made my rolling and my time on the mats one, much more enjoyable, and two, actually a lot more efficient and a lot more successful at the same time. And people find it really difficult to roll with me when I'm playing with that mindset, because it's like everything and nothing at the same time. You know, I can take anything or take, and people either expect one or the other. So it's very difficult. But having that mindset as well, it puts no pressure on me. I'm kind of like, nah, you can take the mount. That's fun. It's not a bad position for me. I've been here a million times. I know how to escape. And if you catch me, well done. You caught me. Let's go again. Boom, it's fun. Let's do it again. You know, I don't take it too seriously, which I think before, it's not in my nature to take things too seriously, but you know, as you get older, you care less and less about stuff like that. And I think that as my jiu-jitsu is developing and I'm developing, hopefully as an individual, I find that more and more that, you know, having that mindset is so much more helpful, especially like I'm saying, as the years pass and you get older and older and you've got to keep up with some of the younger guns, you know, and it's very frustrating when I do that as well. People I call it frustration nation when I do it on people. I bring them into that nation of where I just frustrate them and they're like, oh, will you do something? And I'm like, no, just sit here. Come on, it's your turn. And they're like, because they want me to push the game on. And then they get really frustrated, do something a little bit silly. And I'm like, oh, thanks. Then I'm out. Oh, you owe me now. Thank you. And then you play with it, but it becomes a game. So it becomes more fun rather than, right, I've got to prove that I'm the man. You know what I mean? I've got to prove that I'm the tough guy on the mats and all that stuff. Because I think, you know, no matter who you are, there's always someone, you know, we know this in jiu-jitsu. Monday was your day, Tuesday, you get smashed, you come back on Wednesday. It's kind of so, and this is the cycle of it, right? This is how we keep on learning. And it kind of smashes the ego a little bit now and again. So I don't take it too seriously. Have fun with it. That would be my advice. You know, smooth is fast, as Hoy says. And yeah, just for me anyway, you know, it's that thing of everything matters and nothing matters equally. You know, and if you play from that plane, it becomes very interesting. That's what I'd say. Even if like anyone took that and liked that idea, just to play about it, like, you know, be on cross side and be like, oh, I'm just going to stay here. Does it matter if I mount? No. Does it matter if I submit them? Not really, because we're just playing the game. So I want to see, okay, like, because some nights what I do is get cross side and just play from the cross side. I don't even do anything but that. Or underneath, I'll go cross side bottom and just defend. And other nights I'll go, okay, I'm just going to work on taking the back and then trying to get something from the back. So that makes it a lot more fun for me, because then you can take anyone on the mat, you know, as in the sense of, you know, if you're the highest person ranked and, you know, you want to kind of challenge yourself a lot more, how can I put it? You want to challenge yourself a lot more technically and you want to work on your skill level. Yeah, if you're the brown belt or the black belt and you're in a room full of white belts and blue belts, let them all mount you and just play from there. That's the way I like to start. I'll do that sometimes. Like white belt or blue belt will grab me or purple belt and I'll just fall to my back, let them mount. Or they push me down, they end up on the cross side, they look at me and they're going, it feels like a trap. I'm not sure if I want to like kind of mount. Like seriously, just attack me, it's fine. And then do that, and then they go boom, and they mount. And they go like, oh, I mounted him. Oh my god! It's kind of like they're excited. I'm like, okay, well, let's begin. You know, I'll work to get out, and then we just carry on playing. You know what I mean? Because you got to have your time as well. It's not just about me, you know, pushing my ills and wills on you. It's about you having the thing to feel. You know, not just someone of a higher rank submit you, but be aware of like if I'm underneath you and I'm at skate, pay attention to what I'm kind of doing as well, because hopefully you can maybe learn a couple of little tricks or see, oh, Paul's doing that, and then next time try and stop me. You know, so we're all learning together and just having fun with it. That's, you know, that's my message of millions of years of doing jiu-jitsu is have fun, you know.
Awesome, Professor. Well, just the last thing for you then is what we ask is there anyone in the jiu-jitsu community worldwide that you could point us towards, can be well known or not known at all, that you think has a good story to share?
My wife.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. Yeah, no, she's very accomplished in teaching and stuff like that. Yeah, she runs like in our club, but she runs that. It's all her part. She runs an alternative provision for kids that don't get on at school, and all the kids you would end up maybe seeing on the news or something like that. Yeah, she does every day. She works with a lot of the schools locally, and the kids come in, learn jiu-jitsu, learn a lot of other things, a lot of other skills. She runs that pretty much every day. Not at the moment because we're in the 6 weeks holiday, but she'll be starting that back up in a few weeks. Yeah, she's a black belt as well, and from a lady's point of view as well, I think that it's great when it's great for someone like me who's not up there on the podiums. That's not my thing. I said my thing is teaching. I've jumped on the mats competing, like I've said before, for the fun of it and for the test and kind of show people that, man, just go and do it, But as far as, the exposure for women in jiu-jitsu, it's a good thing to have more women on podcasts and my wife's very accomplished in a different way, in her own way, very much more through the teaching aspect, from being, deputy head at the school, to she's got a master's in like advanced learning and stuff like that. So she's very interesting to talk to. Now we run the academy together, and she's come in and shook me up and down and kind of, she's basically the boss. That's what I'm trying to say. She's, we all have that. I can't even go to work and, feel like I'm the boss anymore. It's kind of like that. It's kind of, but it's great. It's good fun. That's what I'd say. My wife, Ali, she's, very accomplished, very good at what she does. Because we have lots of conversations out on the side of the mat, right? Because she's, for many years, she used to have to go into classrooms and write down and correct, it's one of them. And like someone's teaching something, she'd go in there and mark them and give them advice and stuff like that about how they're teaching. And these are trained teachers as well, people that do it for a living, and she'd go in and correct them. And yeah, she's got a lot of feathers in her cap. It'd be very interesting conversation. But we, on the side of the mat, like if I teach something and she thinks I can kind of twist it and like add or take away or talk less, which is a big thing because I talk a lot, as you can see, which I think is a common thing with jiu-jitsu instructors. I'm not sure. Just that talking. And I always say, believe it or not, I'm an introvert. You would never believe it. You get me talking about jiu-jitsu and I'm like an extrovert, but I'm actually quite introverted. She's got a lot of,
absolutely.
She's got a lot of good stories to tell, and and a different perspective as well from me, and I suppose from a lot of different people, just because of a different journey.
For sure. Well, thanks so much, Professor Paul. Hopefully we can meet you in person at some point as well.
Man, doors are always open, Makasa Sukasa, come down, do some training, or invite me up. I'd like to show you some tricks and stuff. I've got some good escape. I don't like using the word systems. Everyone uses that nowadays. I've got some good, just some good tricks and stuff that I've learned over the years, and some are mine, some are other people's that I've kind of taken on board and mixed them in and stuff. So yeah, if you guys ever want to invite me up for a weekend away, I'll come down and, we can share the mats together and, have some fun.
Absolutely. We'll talk about
that.
Yeah.
100%.
Cool. Thank you, Professor. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks for your time, Paul.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.